Hi, I'm Rob with 3Strong Fitness. In this video, I'm going to teach you about the 3 major body types and how you can customize the portion control guide to fit your individual needs. If you haven't seen my portion control guide, I strongly encourage you to go check that out first before you watch this video. It's going to give you all the portion control guidelines so that all of this makes sense and you know how to put together balanced meals. You might not know this, but there are 3 major body types: ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. I know those might sound just like fancy words, but there is a particular frame and metabolism that is associated with each one of those body types. Let me explain those in a little bit more detail. Here are those 3 major body types: ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. The ectomorph, this is your endurance type athlete. It's a longer, leaner frame. They don't have as much muscle mass, but they also don't have a lot of fat storage. And that goes back to the type of metabolism that they have. These are the people that are very carb tolerant. They can handle a high amount of carbs in their diet and still stay relatively lean. The mesomorph, this is your shorter, leaner, but more muscular frame. These people build muscle a lot easier. If you were to think of an athlete, it would be like a running back on a football team. Shorter, thicker, but a tremendous amount of muscle mass. And these people are relatively tolerant of a variety of food sources. The last one, the endomorph. This would be more of your power lifter, your football linebacker. This is somebody who their metabolism is a little bit slower, so they tend to carry a little bit more fat mass on their frame. And also, speaking of their frame, they do have a larger frame. Each one of these body types has different nutrition requirements, and you can use the portion control guide to help you get the most out of your diet depending on what body type you have. If you're an ectomorph, if you tend to have a longer, thinner frame, your requirements are going to be like this. For the men, 2 palm-sized portions of protein, 2 fist-sized portions of vegetables. But now, since they are a little bit more carb tolerant than the other 2 body types, the men can handle 3 cupped handfuls of a carb-dense food. But as the carb requirements go up, the fat servings are actually going to go down for them. They work a little bit better with a higher carb content in their diet. So it's going to be 1 thumb-sized serving of fat per meal. On the women's side, we have 1 palm-sized portion of protein, 1 fist-sized portion of vegetables, 2 cupped handfuls of a carb-dense food, and then a half a thumb size of a fat-dense food. Now looking at the mesomorph, like I said earlier, these are the more muscular yet lean body types. They build muscle very easily. So they're actually pretty well balanced in terms of the food that they need. For the men, again, it's going to be 2 palm-sized portions of protein, 2 fist-sized portions of vegetables, but now it's 2 cupped handfuls of a carb-dense food and 2 thumb-sized portions of fat-dense food. For the women, you have the same balance. So you have 1 palm-sized portion of protein, 1 fist-sized portion of vegetables, 1 cupped handful of carb-dense food, and 1 thumb-sized portion of fat-dense food. And lastly, now talking about the proportions for the endomorph. For the men, it's going to be 2 palm-sized portions of protein, 2 fist-sized portions of vegetables, 1 cupped handful of carb-dense food, and since they are less carb tolerant, you can actually compensate by having a little bit more of the fat-dense food. So now you're going to have 3 thumb-sized portions of fat-dense food. On the women's side, you have 1 palm-sized portion of protein, 1 fist-sized portion of vegetables, a half cupped handful of carb-dense food, and 2 thumb-sized portions of fat-dense food. Notice, the protein portion and the vegetable portion are the same, regardless of what body type you are. That is always going to be the consistent part of your diet when you're using this portion control guide, is that your protein needs are going to be the same, the vegetable needs are going to be the same. But now, since we have 2 different fuel sources, carbohydrates and fat, your body type will determine how much you get of carbs and how much you get of fat. Just to kind of review this, the ectomorph, the longest, leanest frame, is going to have more carbohydrates, less fat. The mesomorph is going to have a balance of carbohydrates and fat. And then the endomorph, these are the least carb tolerant body type. So it's going to be a smaller portion of carbohydrates, and you're going to compensate by having a slightly larger portion of fats. When you're thinking about what body type you are, I want you to remember that this is a gradient. There aren't 3 perfectly classified body types and there's nothing in between. This is like a grayscale to where you might have a mixture of 2 different body types. But over time, any one of these body types can gain weight. The way that you were as a child is going to be different than your adult body now, because you have, a history of eating a certain way, and that way of eating might not be ideal. You might be commuting for, hours every week to get to work. You might be sitting at a desk for, tens of hours every week. And so that is going to make an ectomorph gain weight, a mesomorph gain weight, an endomorph gain even more weight. So even though if you think that you have excess body fat and you want to lose weight, that doesn't automatically put you in the endomorph category. So think back to a time when you felt really fit, when you felt you were eating right and your body was at its thinnest. And that'll give you a really good idea of what your natural body type is. Based on that information, you can utilize the portion control guide for each one of these body types to best fit your nutrition needs.